Okay, folks, so this is the second day of the concrete lab, and I'm not there to help you, so let me help you right away right here. So, if you remember, we had a big old question, right? Remember what the question was? Well, that was, how long does it take to fully cure concrete, right? Like, we're trying to figure out how long it takes to do this. We already identified our independent variable as time and our dependent variable as the strength of the concrete. So the question then becomes, how are we going to test all of this? So the next step that you have to get through today, well, there's a bunch of steps. You're going to do the materials, the procedure, which is all of this page, and in particular this next page, which says procedure. And lastly, you're just going to make a little graph for data. So you're getting all the way to data. You're not collecting anything. You're just setting up a graph. Okay? So let me help you out. Let's rewind a little bit and go back to materials. Okay? You're going to have to fill this whole thing, all the bullet points up with any possible materials you think you're going to need. Let me help you out here. Okay? How are we going to do this? Well, first of all, you need to think about, what do we have to work with? This is a materials tester. What it does is it has a little readout here, but there's a little post here that pushes down on, well, there's a cell phone here, but it pushes down on whatever's there. We are going to make little samples of concrete, okay? And, well, actually, we're going to use mortar, because mortar will work as a model for concrete. But that mortar, okay, is going to be a little sample, a little cylinder, and it's going to be here, and we are going to have this electronically keep pushing, adding more and more force onto that sample until it breaks. The cool thing is that when that breaks, it records the maximum pressure, the maximum force it was giving at the time. So it keeps going more and more, and then it breaks. It's not exerting as much pressure anymore. So then it reads out in PSI and pascals. So that is what we're going to use. The other part is we are going to have to pour samples. Okay. The whole point is you can't just pour all of the concrete and test it once. Then you can't test it again, right? So you have to pour many different samples of the concrete to test at different days. All right. So with that in mind, you want to think about, what objects am I going to need, or materials, ingredients, that sort of thing, to complete this lab. Okay. So you should fill that up. Work with your lab partners to do that. You already know the independent and dependent variable. In fact, I already talked about it in this video. Then it gets to constants. Okay. These are the things that you are going to keep the same throughout the experiment, okay? I have up here at least 3. For what you're doing, you can come up with at least 5. I think you could fill up this entire thing, okay? But I need at least 3 good constants. More, if you can think of them, is going to make your lab a better lab, okay? So things that are staying the same. I'll give you a hint, and you can't use this one. One of them would be the mixture of the concrete, right? We are only using one mix of concrete. We're not changing that up. We're just trying to see when this mix gets stronger. Okay? All right. Then control. This one, actually, I think I'm going to just have you consider this a bonus for today, because I want to actually go over it with you. Okay, so control is bonus. We'll just skip that. But then procedure. This is what you're going to spend the most amount of time on. As it says, this is a step-by-step description of what you do during the lab. Make sure that it is so detailed that any other group, even a middle schooler, could follow the instructions if your group was not here the day of the lab. So you need to think about it. How can I make this thing foolproof? How can I make it really specific? How can I make sure there aren't any bad assumptions that are being made? Okay? And you notice that there are 16 steps here. You don't have to do all 16 steps. However, you do need to get to at least 8 steps. That's the minimum. 8 steps. You can easily make up 8 steps. If you're having trouble, try finding spots where there are different things that you're not being very specific on. Or you're like, oh, test it. Well, what do you mean? How do you test it? Think about if you've ever coded robots, okay, like Koji's or what's the word, Dash and Dot, okay, the little Dash robots, it's like blue. If you have Mr. Rogers, you might have done that, or Mr. Swords. You have to tell them exactly what to do. Consider this kind of a coding challenge, but you have to get to at least 8 steps with your partners, okay? And lastly, the data. Now, you're not actually collecting data today, of course, but you need to set up the data. Remember, you're basically just setting up a graph with the independent variable on the x-axis and the dependent variable on the y-axis. I'm telling you the answer. You put the independent variable, what is it, and then the dependent variable, what is it, okay? So that is your assignment for today. You're doing the best job you possibly can. I will be checking it next time I have you to see that you've actually done it. So with that, good luck. Let me just double check that I didn't miss anything. We're going to be testing over about a 2-month period. And yeah, that is it. Good luck today, and be nice to the sub.